Mayor for the Borough, Councillor Susan Loudon.
Good evening, everyone. Please be seated. Sorry, I forgot to use the microphone. Can I say a warm welcome back into Wigan Town Hall, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that the Chamber's new image is a vast improvement. I never liked it. So. The rules of conduct governing the meeting has been circulated to all members in advance of the meeting, and hard copies have been placed on your seat. I think you've been told that the network is down and you've got an agenda on your iPad. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This evening we have apologies from Councillor Robert Leakley, Councillor Bob Brearley, Councillor Lynn Holland, Councillor Kath Coulton, Councillor Jim Churton, Councillor Martin Smethurst, Councillor Jamie Hodgkinson, and Councillor Kelly Reedy. Are there any further apologies this evening? Councillor Jim Ellis. Councillor Robert. Apologies? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, members. Minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of January 2016. With acceptance of these as a correct record. Leader?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you, second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Can I put the minutes to the vote? All those in favour of accepting the minutes, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Declaration of interest. Members are requested to complete the relevant form provided in relationship to their interest. In accordance with the guidance issued by the Department of Communities and Local Government in September 2013, members who are council taxpayers and/or own properties or are tenants in the borough are not considered to have a disclosable pecuniary interest in the setting of council tax or precept, since decisions on the council tax or precept do not materially affect your interest in the land. Members should note their personal interest for the following: school governors, Wigan and Lee Housing Board, Wigan Leisure and Cultural Trust Board members, members of Transport for Greater Manchester, members of Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue Authority, and parish councils. Members are asked to consider other disclosable pecuniary interests for the purpose of this meeting, and any personal and prejudicial interests should leave the room if required. Are there any further declarations? Thank you. Item 4, Policy and Budget Framework. The Council's deal for the future and the Revenue and Capital Budget Framework. Members are asked to note that as this is the budget report, we are required by regulations to have a named vote on any motions and amendments to motions on this item. The Council is requested to consider the recommendations set out on page 18 of the agenda. The report was considered by the Cabinet at its meeting held on the 18th of February 2016. The views of scrutiny were also taken on board at a later meeting of the Cabinet that day. The relevant quality impact assessment has been prepared and circulated to all members in advance of the meeting. I will now move the suspension of Rule of Procedure 11.3 of the Constitution to permit the Leader and his Cabinet to speak for the duration of the presentation and opposing the motion, and that each be permitted to speak one more time during the debate. That a member be allowed 5 minutes when he's seconding the motion, and 10 minutes are provided for the Leader of the opposition groups to respond to the motion. 5 minutes for any other member to respond to the motion or amendments, and 10 minutes for the leader when replying to a debate on the motion he has proposed, or the proposed amendments when considering the budget item. Councillor Grundy has indicated that he has an amendment and will move that at the appropriate time. And I invite the leader to second the procedural motion.
It's a second, Madam.
Thank you. All those in favour of suspending rule of procedure 11.3 as described? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. I now invite the leader of his cabinet to present the budget and to move all recommendations as set out on page 18 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'll agree with your comments about the chamber, and I'd like to thank our man who worked on this job, Councillor Terry Hallowell, for all his patience and making sure we did get a really good job done. So well done on that, Terry. I will not confess, Madam Mayor, as to how many budgets have moved in this chamber. Well, I will confess that the first one was in 1983. I've not done every year since then, so you can't just do the simple maths on that. It was 1983, so it was some time ago. They've all been challenging in one way or the other. I think in recent years they've been even more challenging, as I hope to show you there. But we've always, on this side, taken the approach that we'll try and deliver the best we can for the people of this borough. That's what they deserve, and we'll do the best for them. So, I should say we've got a new style of presentation today, and my lovely assistant over there should coordinate well with me to change the slides so it works. So slide 1 is showing the scale of the challenge that we've had to meet since 2010. You see how much money we've lost, how much we've had to take off the budget in all those years that we've done up to now. Currently, about the end of the current year, we're over 100 million pounds. It's a huge amount of money to go out of our budget, and it continues onwards and upwards in the projected statement by the Chancellor of public spending over the next 4 years. The government announced then from the spending, announced its local government scheme outline in December. Nice Christmas present for some authorities to receive that for Christmas. And the final settlement was delivered on the 3rd of February. It was almost entirely the same as the initial settlement, except for one thing, that the Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government decided that for some authorities, what he was asking was too tough. That really, they couldn't afford to do the cuts that he made. So he came up with a device called a transitional grant, which helped authorities to get over that. So, as we can see, Parliament distributed entirely in a fair and even way. The distressed classes of Surrey, the stockbrokers and so on, who felt really needed the support, so they got 12 million this month to help them over their budget problems, and we, along with most of the rest of the Greater Manchester, got not one penny. And you've seen the scale of what we've had to do, and so you can see that this was an entirely political device made by the Secretary of State to help his Tory friends. And we'll look forward to Councillor Grundy's explanation as to how this can be justified, that those poor people of Surrey, the ragged trousered people of Surrey, deserve such money. I'd like to know. So we also want to concentrate on the real key changes. The entry to the New Homes bonus is going to be cut in future years, but we've never taken that as part of our base budget, so it won't affect us in the same way as it might affect some other authorities. as we predicted in the settlement, public health is having significant cuts. We're losing just over £2 million. Now, if you think about it, we have a problem funding health in the UK. And one of the ways that we ought to be tackling that is actually to be preventing people becoming ill, encourage them to do alternative things, to becoming ill. And yet here we have a government which is actually cutting that area of spending, if that's what public health is. We've been proud, and we'll explain more of this later, but of the work we've done in Wigan in creating apprentices. And for us and for private firms who are doing that, the government has decided that not only should we have the cost of the apprentices, we'd actually pay a levy to the government of 0.5%. So for us, it's going to be £500,000 of money that's just going to pay the government for running apprentices. We're not going to stop doing it because we think it's such a good thing, but it's a significant impact. And the independent living fund again has been cut further. And further cuts to the education services grant in future years. So we're continuing this process of austerity, reducing the government provided support. We know the Chancellor announced that we're going to have all of the revenue from business rates, and in theory that's something that we can support, but clearly there needs to be some kind of system which equalises the distribution of business rates, because you might imagine Westminster would be able to raise more money in business rates than we can do in Wigan. So how are they going to do that redistribution of money from the richer areas to those who are less affluent? Of course, we don't know that yet, so we have to assume we'll do this in a fair way. So we will that. We also know that there's a 2% increase in the council tax for social care and backstops at the moment, and the assumption is that council tax receipts will be growing in this period of time by the level of inflation. So back to that 2% social care increase, that's, as I say, we think there's a gap in our social care budget of just under £7 million. The pressure of increasing numbers of older people, and myself, I'm sure Councillor John Hodgkinson are relieved, but we're glad that people are living longer and getting older, so that's good news for some of us, but clearly there is a cost with that demographic factor. So we're trying to get some saving, which is by integrating more with health, and we've got some of that. Over 90% of authorities who have permission to raise the 2% have actually taken the opportunity. And for us it will raise just over £2 million, which will be, we'll do that for 4 years, so that will be £8 million, but of course the pressures will rise year on year. And we just want to remind you, of course, again, that those affluent areas where the products which have lots of big houses, we pay lots of council tax, 2% for them will raise a lot more money than it does a place like Wigan, where the majority of properties are in Band A or Band B. So it is a significant difference. You can't assume you get copies of these slides sent to members, so you can see. But what I wanted to make sure is that who suggested we put the 2% on? It was the Chancellor, George. In his autumn statement, he made the point that he recognises that we need a better social care system. So in the future, he says, local authorities responsible for social care will be able to levy a new social care precept of up to 2% on council tax. So I think we're well in order of telling the people of Wigan that 2% is the Osborne tax. That's where it's come from, that's where the idea is. So, what will that do to the council tax bill in Wigan for next year? So that will rise council tax from its current figure, just 1.192, these are band D figures, up to 1,250.98. We also need to pay precepts to the police and fire authority. The police commission was allowed to put a 5% increase in the precepts, chose to do so, and the fire authority was given 2%, so that's the increase that they got there. So that's the impact that has. The next slide shows you the comparative figures for Greater Manchester authorities. So you can see that of all those authorities, some are putting up by, they're allowed to put an additional 2% on if they wanted to, but we've kept, with our promise to the people of Wigan, we've only put the 2% on. And so I think what you can see by that gesture is that Wigan are now the second lowest council tax level in Greater Manchester. We've also put this forward as a 4-year agreement with the government. That gave us more certainty of grants in future years, but continue to have a cut in the revenue support grant by, as I said, business rates are going to come to us in 2020, but the government said also there will be more services coming to local government, but of course the money will not come with it, and we'll be expected to use the business rates. So the challenges that we've had in the past, how we coped with that? Well, what we did in Wigan was we adopted the idea of the Wigan deal. The deal was a more transitional relationship between the local authorities and the community in Wigan, putting money into the communities, supporting the communities, but also helping them to become more self-reliant, less dependent upon council services. And the deal helped us through the last couple of years to achieve what we've done. But it's not enough for the future. So we've come up with a variant of that, which is the deal for the future. This is now going to take us to 2020, taking us to making sure we can achieve what we want to achieve as a council for the people of the borough, and yet manage the financial challenge that we need to cope with. So it's a strategy based upon 2 key elements: growth, trying to get more activity, more business activity, which will generate more business rates, more housing, which will generate greater council tax, but also recognising that we have to do our bit as a local authority, reforming and altering the way we work, making sure we do it in a way that works properly. So I say we've still got this financial challenge, so we're looking probably for a further 60 million worth of efficiencies over the next few years. That key component is that we're giving them quite services and making sure we do it in a different way that's effective. And at the heart of what we do is the Safety Community Investment Fund, which has worked well, and I'm sure the council really wants to speak about it later. So as a result of that, it's been so successful that Chris, you've got another £2 million to spend in the following year. So I think that's a really important way forward. So what we want to achieve by getting 3% growth in the local economy, that's a challenge, but hopefully we get there. And somebody is working hard on that, which means 5,000 jobs, people getting into work, getting good jobs locally, and getting people better qualified so they can get lots of good jobs, more homes delivered in the borough for the people of the borough, so getting kids more ready for school. At the moment, 2/3 of kids arrive at the age of 5 ready for school, which means a third aren't. And it's not distributed evenly across the borough, of course. In certain pockets, it's up to 70+%. And the gap is often never ever made up. So by the age of 5, you can predict how people will achieve, how kids will go. That's not what we want. We want more people to be prepared at 5. Reduction looked after children, so that will both save us money, but also hopefully give those kids a better experience. Like reduction in the number of people claiming out-of-work benefits, whatever section of public services that's beneficial, so that's good news. And to increase the life expectancy in the borough, so again, good news in getting near those figures. To see if we were doing the right approach, then we went to out to consultation. At the end of last year, we went to run for a period of time. We used the Borough Life magazine as a way of consulting people. We know that many people in the borough do read Borough Life and interested in that. So we got a response rate of 1,000, which is pretty good. And again, the results are pretty positive. So over 80% agree with the principles of what we do. So that's really good. Over 95% thinking we need to work better with health to get people to lead more healthy lives. And that over 90% thinking supporting our concept and using those. That was good. And when it came to the choice between providing buildings and providing services, again, the clear majority of the people who are asking two different questions show it was services that matter, not buildings, so that was good news. These were the identified services in the rank that put them in, so good news for Joe Platt there, with the services for children coming out on top, but bad news for community protection, trying to remember to do with this, but you know, depends if you've had a bad experience on holiday. The deal, of course, is not just something we do at the level of the council, but we're going around the different communities of the borough, we're meeting local people, local residents, local groups, having a roadshow where they can understand, to explain to them what is going on. It's been well received right across the borough, what we're doing, we continue to do that forward. So if we've not been to your patch yet, or hang on, we are on our way on the schedule going forward. But I think it's also been a good learning experience for us, because I think what it means is you understand what people's frustrations are on the ground, and hopefully on some occasions we can respond. And I'm sure colleagues from Shevington understand that if you listen to people, understand what they need in the areas, we can respond in a positive way, and hopefully that helps people in their areas to believe in it. Okay, so I think we now move on. So I invite David to continue. All the cabinet members are going to make a brief presentation, and I'll just finish up with you.
Thank you, Wigan. I think the leaders outlined very clearly the aims and objectives of us as a council and what we want to do for the people who live in the borough. And there's one particular section that I am particularly keen on, and that is giving young people a future in terms of employment opportunities. And I think when we committed to fund apprenticeships a number of years ago, we started to look at how much we could put in to support that, not just within the council, but outside the council as well. I thought it was a hell of a brave commitment at that stage, considering the financial implications that all councils were facing, and we were facing some particularly savage cuts placed on us. But yet we made that commitment. We made that commitment to support young people, to give them opportunities of employment, and we committed, since the last 7 years, we spent something like £3 million on promoting apprenticeships, not just within the council, but outside the council as well. The take-up in this borough has been something special. Over 50,000 people have taken up apprenticeships in Wigan since we first implemented that as a major target for us. And our performance in Wigan outperforms many of the authorities within Greater Manchester. And when I start to look at our own apprentices within the council and what we've achieved there in terms of over 200 apprentices coming into this authority, learning a trade, learning a job, and looking forward to a career. I think it's something that we all should be proud of. But not only do we take on apprentices within the council, we supported businesses outside the council with a grant that we set up. We put on the side 1.5 million to support businesses to take on apprentices. And that has been well received by small and medium enterprises, and other businesses have taken them on as well. And we've been able to support that and help young people to get that first step on a career opportunity. No other council in Greater Manchester has done that. We have done that, and I think we should be proud of what we've done in terms of giving young people that opportunity. And many of the young people I have spoken to fully appreciate what we do as a council in trying to help them on that first rung of the ladder into employment. I also think it's important to think that at a time when we are trying, along with the business sector, along with other councils, to create apprenticeship opportunities. One thing I can't understand about George Osborne's budget is to put a levy on companies and organisations like ourselves, putting a levy on apprenticeship. And I don't think even Councillor Grundy, in all honesty, can defend that. Because that has a knock-on effect. It will cost us in the region of £500,000. How many more apprentices could I take on this council and support business apprenticeships if that levy wasn't there? And that is what you've got to look at. £500,000 creates a great number of apprenticeships, not only in this council, but outside it as well. I think it's important as we look towards our deal for the future that we continue to do this. And I will plead with this council to take seriously as we look forward to the budget next year and the year after to continue that funding for apprenticeships. Because young people need that opportunity, and if we don't provide it, no one else will. So I'm proud of what we've done, and despite the deficit that we've got to deal with, we're continuing to support young people, and with your support, we will continue to deliver. Let's not forget, when we first discussed this in this council chamber, about putting forward a sum of money to support apprenticeships, it wasn't supported 100%. Shame on you. If you didn't vote for that night, shame on you. Because the difference that it's made to those people's lives this week is something remarkable. And I ask you to continue to support that as part of this council budget and continue to support the council in the work it does for the young people who we represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and again, as portfolio of children and young people, I'm really pleased that children and young people are in the deal for the future. We have a lot to celebrate within the borough in relation to our children and young people and the services that we provide for them, all 75,000 of them. We've set out our ambitions in the deal for the future to be even better, as well as being clear about the areas that we need to improve on too. And Peter alluded to the fact that we do have a number of children that are not school ready, and we are willing to take that on and make that better. So I'm delighted that we continue to support all our schools, despite national policy. And we do have a lot to shout about. We've got 91% of our early years settings which are rated good or outstanding, and 94% of our primary schools which are rated good or outstanding, placing us in the top 10 best areas in the country. And 74% of our secondary schools are rated good or outstanding, in line with the position nationally. Now that's fantastic news for our schools, and we should be really proud of them. We all should be proud of them. And the attainment of our children and young people continues to excel. So Key Stage 2 primary school pupils continue to outperform their peers nationally, with 84% of pupils achieving level 4 or higher in reading, writing and maths, compared with 80% nationally. And at Key Stage 4, we've got secondary pupils also continue to outperform their peers nationally, with 58% of pupils achieving achieving 5 or more GCSEs at A star to C, and that's including maths and English, and that's compared to 56% nationally. Again, fantastic achievements. And our children and young people, they have a clear stake in our communities, and we advocate at every possible opportunity the importance of giving our young people, our children and young people, a voice. That's so important. It's so important that we listen to what they have to say. I've learned so much from working with our young people, in particular our youth groups, our youth cabinet, and from what they want within the borough and what they want from us as an authority too. So we've just finished consulting on the deal for children and young people through every school within the borough, as well as through our various youth voice groups, who along with Youth Cabinet represent with passion and skill. Our BU group, I'm delighted to say, have approached us and they're currently developing exciting plans for the very first Wigan Pride. So we're the last authority within Greater Manchester to do a Pride event. So again, I think this is something that we all really need to get behind. So it's promoting equality and diversity, which I'm sure everybody will celebrate. And we need to celebrate the fact that it is our young people that are leading on this. This isn't us delivering this, the Wigan Pride event. This is young people that are leading on it, along with our partners as well. So I am extremely proud to be part of that. And I was delighted to join you as well, Madam Mayor, at the election ceremony for our members of Youth Parliament. And I would like to congratulate Tom and Darnley on their successful campaigns, and their deputies Max and Keegan, and also the campaign leader Sam. And again, we had over 7,000 young people voting within that process. So I think that's really amazing as well. So that's connecting with our schools, connecting with all our young people within the borough, and for them to have a voice in that process. So I'm looking forward to working with the MYPs. Clearly our biggest priority is helping those children, young people and families who need our help, support and protection, and nothing is more important than that. We support the 207 registered foster carers we have in our borough to provide excellent care for 3/4 of all our children who are in care. And I'm delighted, Madam Mayor, that we continue to outperform the national average for the percentage of our children leaving care who are adopted. I'm proud to say that we are the second best performer within this area. So 100% of our children's residential homes are also good or outstanding, and 72% of our care leavers are engaged in employment, education and training. And again, that alludes to what David was saying about the different programmes that we have on offer for our young people, and in particular for our looked after children, which is the Confident Futures Apprentice programme. Again, a really successful programme that we are continuing to support. And finally, Madam Mayor, we are leading the way in Wigan Borough on national innovation for some of the most complex safeguarding challenges of our times. So that's including child sexual exploitation, as well as adolescent mental health, two areas that we really need to focus on. So the deal for the future and our deal for children and young people build on all these strengths and sets out a clear programme of reform to give every child in the borough the best possible start in life. Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Adult social care takes about 30% of the council's budget. So when we face a situation where we've already made £100 million and have a further 60 million to make, clearly contributing 30% of the budget for the council, there's a significant effect on health and social care. So what have we achieved over the last few years? Well, we've managed to reduce the budget by £25 million. Actually, the reality of that is probably even more, because that's in actual terms but because of the demographic change and the ageing population, adds about £1.5 million a year to the demand. So over the 4 years that would have been 6 million. And inflation adds about £1 million a year. So the actual reduction is probably in the region of about £35 million. Now, many councils, and certainly you can read in national press about people saying adult social care is on the brink of collapse around the country. That's quite common in the press. Many councils adopted the attitude that we have less money and therefore we carry on doing the same things, but we'll just do less of it. That's not the approach we took here in Wigan. Part of what we've done is to actually transform the way we provide services in adult social care and health. And unlike some other councils in Greater Manchester who now have a £20 million black hole or a £17 million black hole that they can't fill, we're not in that position. And actually, what have we done? We've modernised the day services. I think in the survey that the leader was referring to, people say provide services to people and cut costs on buildings, which is what we've done by modernising the day service. We've redesigned the social work services to fit in with a modern, transformed adult social care service. Because actually you need a different type of staff. Obviously you still need fully qualified social workers, but the workforce that you need to do a transformed service is something different. We of course re-procured some of the external services that we purchased and looked at some of the contracts that we had and changed them. The redesign of the accommodation and support services was about reducing the number of people who were going into residential care or people who were already in residential care. Primarily that's around people with a learning disability and mental health issues. But if you remember several years ago, when we first started to do this, the opposition to the closure of the Pines, for instance, was great. And it's only because the Labour group in this council had some belief in what we're doing, trusting me to do it, and actually supporting me doing it, that actually we've made the lives of a significant number of people much improved. People who we were told we were attacking the most poor and vulnerable in the community are actually now living in much better accommodation, in their own accommodation, integrated in the community. And what I hope to do in a future council meeting is bring a video where those people who were in there can tell you how much their life has changed as a result of what we did and actually reduce the cost for this council. The transformation of the service delivery model is about changing the way we work. Traditional adult social care did things to people. The way we work now is we work doing things with people. We look at an asset-based conversation with people, a different conversation. Not looking at what people can do, looking at what people can do. Utilising their individual assets, mapping assets that exist within community, connecting people with the communities. Dealing with social isolation and loneliness, which can have an impact on physical and mental health. Social isolation and loneliness is reckoned to have the same effect as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It leads to poor physical and mental health, being social isolated and lonely. Connecting people with communities. We developed and encouraged social enterprise and community interest companies who were doing lots more different types of work than what we were doing within a traditional service. And all that, with a £25 million reduction, has actually improved outcomes for service users. And we've managed to protect the key preventative areas, because like the leader said, the whole of the Greater Manchester strategy, the whole of the Simon Stevens 5-year forward view for health is about developing prevention and early intervention to prevent people from health. Because in reality, what we've had over many years is a national illness service and not a national health service. Because it responds to people at a time of crisis, and it doesn't prevent people from coming. So if we look at what the challenges are, so that's where we are today. What are the challenges? The challenges for us up to 2020. The deal for adult social care and wellbeing and working and the integration of health has to save another £16.5 million by 2020. So what will be coming forward are some really exciting different models of working integrated with health, transformed primary care, working in localities and dealing with all those wider determinants of health. Things like housing, education, employment. Let's deal with the root causes of the problems and not problems that occur. So a completely different direction about prevention and early intervention. The national living wage is something we should all welcome being brought in. But as many people know, the care sector is a sector that pays low wages. So many of the people who provide services to us, many of the care providers, home care providers, residential care providers, are going to have increased costs. And if we have to have a sustainable market that will be there and available for all the people, then we have to recognise the increased cost for that sector. And that, over the up to 2020, is going to cost us an additional 10.3 million. The public health grant, as the leader said, public health is around prevention and early intervention. So why on earth would the government put that? Well, of course, they transferred it from the NHS, which had had flat funding, and transferred it to local authorities. Now they don't believe public health is anything to do with the NHS, and so we get a cut of £4.3 million in public health. So we've got that to cover. And as I said previously, demographic demand, the fact that more people are getting older, and we're going to have something like, over the next few years, by 2020, we'll have something like 11% more people in that age range, in beyond the age range. And inflationary pressures add another 4 million. So we're going to carry on doing what we're doing in terms of transforming services, working with health to bring about a new, exciting opportunity within localities and communities, and the council and other partners, and health, and GPs, and schools, working together to provide a different type of service, working with people rather than doing things to them. Potentially some of those things that we have to meet can be met by the Better Care Fund. Now, unfortunately for us, the Better Care Fund is backloaded. And what I mean by backloaded is, next year, we get nothing. 17, 18, I think we get 1.2 million. The 12.4 million comes in 2019-20. So we have a lot of work to do, and that money's not up front, when actually it would be more better to get it up front and to be able to bring about the change. And of course we're taking the 2% council tax, just like over 90% of councils are doing. Because faced with that, faced with £16 million to take out, faced with dealing with the national living wage, faced with the public health grant being diminished, and demographic and inflation, why would you refuse to take 2 million? Doesn't cover it, but why would you refuse? Councillor Hodgkinson is going to tell us later why it would set a dangerous precedent in raising this 2%. Councils of every political persuasion across the country are doing it. George Osborne said social care cannot cope, the taxpayer must bear the burden, and he put the burden on council taxpayers. You know, I feel privileged to have this cabinet position and to be able to do this work and drive it forward. And I suppose any councillor in this council could have that position, any elected member. And it just reminds me of the advert for the National Lottery on telly. Anybody could win it, don't let it be him. Well, anybody could run adult health and social care in this council chamber, but don't let it be him.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. First of all, I would like to say that environmental services in the main are also high on residents' priorities. The leaders explained that the deal for the future sets out Wigan Council's strategic plan for the next 5 years. One of the key aims of the plan is to create strong, safe and clean communities by supporting and encouraging residents to take greater responsibility for their area and to instill pride in the borough. To support this aspiration, Wigan Council is asking communities to take more ownership where they live and work together to keep the borough safe, clean and green, making it a more attractive place to live, visit and invest in. The deal for your street will build on the original principles of the deal, giving residents the opportunity to get involved in their community and encourage greater self-reliance and thus reducing dependency in council services. A current example of this approach is the council support for the national campaign Clean for the Queen, which takes place this month. The council is calling on members, groups, individuals and schools to do their bit to help clear up the litter that blights the streets of Wigan Borough. This national campaign echoes messages that the council have been issuing for the last few years as part of the deal, encouraging more people to take ownership where they live, bringing back good old-fashioned neighbourliness. Members have a big part to play in their role as community leaders. One example of this is through their continued support for In Bloom, for which groups in this borough have achieved regional and national recognition. Friends groups also continue to play an increasingly important part in the management of the borough's parks open spaces. The council will also continue to encourage both individuals and community groups to become more self-reliant with regards to winter maintenance, flood event resilience, increasing recycling rates, and contributing to street cleanliness by not having litter, dog management, and not fly tipping. There are 3 environmental services work streams ongoing which will help to achieve big savings required over the next few years. First of all is integrated transport, where we anticipate to save in excess of £600,000. This is an ongoing work stream of adult services and will allow the more efficient utilisation of vehicles and staff. The Waste Services Review, we're anticipating savings of about £1 million in this area. This review will build on the principle of more recycling and waste minimisation that is contained in the deal. As part of this piece of work will also be a review of the current IT systems and processes which help deliver further efficiencies and streamline our business processes. The biggest piece of work is the Environmental Services Review, with anticipated savings of £8.5 million, and probably the most challenging. It will involve a full review of all environmental services, how they are currently provided. The review is at an early stage, but is already beginning to suggest savings associated with improved staff utilisation in highways and building DLOs, amending vehicle maintenance regimes to allow improved vehicle utilisation, a move away from inefficient, labour-intensive paperback office systems and the use of technology to optimise routes and staff deployment and street cleansing. This is in addition to reducing energy consumption by completing the LED street lighting scheme rollout. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I thought I was on after that. Colleagues, I will try not to bore you too much with facts and figures, but give you an insight into how the SIF process works, beginning with the deal for the future and the deal in action session. Can I firstly start by welcoming the news of continued investment, which the leader announced earlier. I think if we look back 3 years, then when the leader and the deputy leader came up with the idea of the community investment fund, and they spoke to me, and I thought this is a bit of an ambitious kind of thing to go ahead, and I think a lot of other councils and people around thought they were off the rockers, to be quite honest. In these times of kind of what we're going through with cuts, that we should be doing this, but it's been proved right and all the way down the line, and you can see other authorities now looking at it and saying this is the way we should be going. But for some of them it's too late because they should have done it early days. We've had over 300 applications in the past 3 years, with 3 million invested into our communities. That's something no other council has done. And in one of the leader's slides, and I don't want to contradict him, he came up, there was a savings figure of 0.8 million, which he saved us over I think it was years 1 and 2. The figures that have come out now, which are the new ones, is more towards 1.5 million, which he's saved the council. And pleased to announce as well, Wigan Athletic Community Trust was one of the first recipients of the SIF, and they actually went on and put in for lottery bids on the back of it because their forms very much are in line with those. And it's just been announced that they've just got under £500,000 to work in our areas, in deprived areas all over the borough. So that adding that to that, we're looking like near 2 million that actually SIF has kind of brought in. So it does look like it's a good idea in the end. SIF, I did mention the lottery there. SIF is recognised as good practice by the National Lottery, and actually the forms that we use are all linked in with those. With the present economic climate and more cuts on the way, we've got to learn from years 1 and 2. So I just thought to give you a few things that actually the team have kind of brought in. We know a clear link to the transformation programme of the council, Start, Live and Age Well, so it links all the programmes in. We have a more streamlined approach to applications, user-friendly with a one-to-one support for groups who are struggling to kind of do the paperwork. We have a flexible approach with community groups, so they can meet the more challenging areas in the localities. This is things we've learned as we've gone along all the time. But things are not plain sailing, and there's one area that we really do need to push forward, and if members in this room know anybody who can actually take this mantle on, and there's groups which is community transport. We actually are doing so much all over the borough, and there's so many groups, and the leaders touched on the deal in action sessions, doing so much out there with so much enthusiasm. But if we've got a group in schools doing so much work, how do we get people from Tilsley or the other side of the borough to come over to there? We're willing to invest in community transport to get, so we can link up all the things that we're funding and all the good work that's being done all over the borough. So I think it's really important we do that. We're always learning and moving forward, going through bids, especially in small grants. Actually, we took this pot on and we looked at it and doing grants under £2,000. And it's a real eye-opener because when you look at the grants and you sit down, some of them you dismiss and you think, we can't be funding that, it's just not feasible. So what we've started doing is going out to these groups to look at what they're doing. We went out to a group in Lee, I won't go into detail of the group, and they really were underselling themselves. They put down on the forms that they had 15, 20 people. When we went, there was 150 people really underselling themselves and kind of just doing the work. And then there's the things we need to know and we'll work on that, and it's really, really important. I want to just say a few words and take a bit of license to talk about the staff volunteer scheme. This has been a real big success for the council, and one that, again, people frowned on all over and said, oh, you know, this is another big one. This gives them, when you speak to staff, it gives them another dimension to the job. We've got accountants going out there chopping trees down, legally, not illegally. We've got directors going out there litter picking. We've got the media team out there going to the farming and chasing pigs around and things like that, and that's all done on video. HR have been out helping the homeless. Legal have been working with our veterans. I could go on and on. There's so many, you know, real things that's going on in our communities that our staff are actually embracing. And what we're doing after that is actually carrying on with that volunteering. And that's what the aim was all about. We give them a day off work, now we're doing 2 days. They're spending weeks and months now in our communities and getting really involved, because once they've got into it, they realise what a difference they can make. Staff have commented on how good the idea is. And many members and staff have continued to volunteer as I spoke. And I think, I mean, if you go around, staff morale is at an all-time high. When you speak to them, they feel like they're actually doing something outside of the day job, really making a difference in our communities, and I think that's brilliant. A couple of thank yous. First, I'd like to thank all the groups of volunteers that we have in the borough, who make our borough what it is. Without them volunteering, we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be producing what we do. And as I said earlier, thanks to our staff, from the top to the bottom, And I feel, and personally, I mean, I've talked to other people, there's a real buzz about the place, positive attitude. Well, let's get out there and make Wigan a better place for us to live and work. And I think that's a real vibe in it. I'm not just saying that in this chamber. You can go around and talk to the staff. And, you know, you will always get some who are not happy. We know what that's like. If you want an example of kind of this idea, if you go to some of the dealing action sessions, and we've got staff, some are coming in their own time, we've got stalls there, there's everything. And they're doing it with a smile on their face and they're buzzing and enjoying it. It's like, you know, they come over at the end and Donald say, you know, they actually love it and say, this is what it's all about, this is what it's putting back in. This is why we work for a council and not a private organisation, because it's different. A final thank you, I'd like to thank Catherine Rees and the team who supports me 100%. There's been lots of changes and it's been very demanding for the team, going through all the safe and doing the dealing action stuff, and some of them I think they're on Valium at the moment, some of the girls, but there we are. But they're enjoying it, but it's a real tough time. Whether it's the deal for the future, the dealing action, the SIF funding, the staff volunteering, or many other initiatives that my fellow colleague, cabinet colleagues have illustrated, Wigan Council is the envy of not only Greater Manchester but the country. And that's not by chance. That's not by chance. That's by us. Not afraid to take a chance. Not afraid to take a chance and do something different. Holding our hands up as well when we get it wrong. So, you know, people have come to us and said, you should be doing that a different way. And we've got away and we've changed stuff because we're listening to people. We're learning from that, and I think the leader touched on that. As we do the sessions, and we're learning month by month of what people are saying. And I think if you want an example of that, really, the deal in action, and actually the listening in action sessions that the leader and chief executive are representing is a prime example of listening to people like that. I don't know any authority within Greater Manchester anywhere where the chief exec and the leader go out, speak to communities face to face, and have a question and answer session. I don't know any other authorities what are doing that. If they are, I'm sure they'll tell us, but I don't know any. So I applaud that, and I think it's really good that there's a real buzz around Wigan. There's an optimism that we're actually going the right way, making a difference for people, and we'll carry on doing it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, it was right that this council examine and re-energise its relationship with our leisure provider, Inspiring Healthy Lifestyles. In seeking to renew our partnership, we will see the end of the year £1.8 million subsidy, a new contract, and a renewed emphasis shared by both the board of Inspiring Healthy Lifestyles and this council to deliver real benefits in the realm of public health. As a result, we've developed investment proposals for our sports and leisure facilities, most notably at Howbridge. I know, Madam Mayor, you've had the opportunity to visit that centre. A £3 million investment which has led to site performance exceeding expectation. For those members that perhaps haven't had the opportunity to visit Howbridge, can I suggest that perhaps you find an hour in your diary to do so. You'll be genuinely excited by the offer that is now available. Madam Mayor, Hay Hall has rightly been described as a jewel in the crown, but without a radical plan, the reality is that the council would not be able to invest in the hall and the surrounding woodland, nor improve the offer to the borough's residents. Wigan Council is investing around £4 million in infrastructure improvements and new attractions, including a high ropes attraction, play area, adventure golf course, within the 250 acres of woodlands surrounding the hall. There will also be a kitchen courtyard developed in the existing stables block. These facilities will be managed by leisure partner Inspiring Healthy Lifestyles. The new park, crucially, will also include a £6 million restoration of the Grade 2 listed hall into a 4-star boutique Contessa hotel, set to boost the local economy by £30 million and increase visitor numbers to 500,000 a year. Crucially, the deal will reduce the maintenance burden for Wigan Borough taxpayers by £8 million over the next decade, which will allow for investment across the park. Now, Madam Mayor, last week I joined the Deputy Leader as he announced the preferred location of the Veterans Hall at a packed event at the Wigan Youth Zone. The It may come as a surprise to members, but there are an estimated 22,000 veterans and their families who reside in the borough. Indeed, a quarter of new entrants to the Hammead historically come from the North West region. And our historic link with Her Majesty's forces is just as real as the borough's mining or industrial heritage. Collectively, we have agreed to allocate £500,000 towards the provision of a new building to deliver services that meet the needs of this brave group of men and women. Madam Mayor, Wigan is very much needing the Greater Manchester region, providing services to the veteran community. We should all be proud, Madam Mayor, that we have not just signed the Armed Forces Covenant, but that we are translating this important contract with our armed forces into tangible and real benefits. In today's world of reduced budgets, management of buildings can play an extremely important role in supporting our efforts to reduce costs, improve existing buildings and the services they provide, and contribute towards growth by delivering additional council tax receipts. The refurbishment of Wigan Town Hall is just one example of how we've reduced our asset base, and in doing so have saved £1 million per year on building costs under the management of Councillor Howell. Inley Town Hall is now functioning as a base for staff working as part of our flexible working model, and after many years of lobbying, we are now in a position where we will finally realise a state-of-the-art health centre for the people of Ashton and Bryn, and the disposal of Ashton Town Hall, and working in partnership with the CCG and others. And only last month, Cabinet agreed to pilot Atherton Town Hall as a hub, providing a mix of voluntary and public services. And as the leader and other Cabinet members have mentioned, as part of the deal in action, we've also listened to residents' feedback, and we're working to refurbish, extend or create new car parking space in Shepperton, Standish, Tilsley areas of the borough. Finally, Madam Mayor, I come to the living wage. Whilst it may be tempting for some to think that the council could not possibly operate without the time, energy and commitment of elected members, the reality is that we are fortunate to have dedicated staff across all areas of the council working hard in challenging times. Whilst we can never meet all of the demands that they may be asked of us, it is the case and it is right that we pay the living wage. The council took the decision to pay a living wage supplement to our staff in April 2013, whereby we increased their hourly rate to match that of the national living wage at the time. In August 2015, this figure was increased to bring it in line with the net hourly rate of £7.85, which we continue to pay. All council staff are in receipt for a minimum of £7.85 an hour, and this will increase to £8.25 an hour in April 2016. And as an organisation, I think it's pleased to know that we are currently exceeding the government's national living wage. Madam Mayor, this snapshot of the work we are undertaking in the leisure climate and resources portfolio, I hope will demonstrate that we are rising to the challenges that we face, whilst always seeking to improve the services we provide to residents and our partner organisations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the leaders pointed out, we've had a challenging 5 years, saving £100 million, and we've got some tough years ahead of us with some difficult decisions to make. And obviously, it's going to come into our budget. But I think it's important that we recognise that we're actually improving the quality and responsiveness of our services through technology. And we have to grasp that opportunity. If we compare the cost of a face-to-face service at £8.62, a telephone at £2.83, and just 15 pence for an online service, we can all appreciate the savings to be made. But we recognise that traditional services will still have to be in place through this transition phase so that people don't get left behind, because not everybody's connected to the internet. But I think our digital vision for Wigan is about creating digital access to council services for everyone who wants that. It's about making sure that businesses can work with us in a way that suits them and allows them to grow. Our award-winning digital task force brings together representatives from community groups, as Councillor Reid has touched on, the private sector, as Councillor Mooney has touched on, and even from our own world-conquering rugby league club, Wigan Warriors. We're all signed up to the same vision, and we're all committed to getting people online, improving services and helping businesses in the borough to grow. So part of that commitment is the 0.5 million we have allocated to realising this vision. In addition to this is a groundbreaking 5 million community investment fund that Councillor Reid is so eloquently referred to, where we are encouraging organisations to share those big digital ideas for this borough and spread the benefits across 319,000 residents. So our digital offer has seen in recent years the development of My Account, which residents handle the day-to-day essentials that allows them to skip telephone queues, while our phone operatives focus on more in-depth, less straightforward issues. 1 in 4 of our households are now signed up and using it. Some 43,000 residents, one of the highest levels of take-up in the country. We've also developed a reporting app that allows residents to report environmental issues with their mobile phone. A digital inclusion team, and most exciting is our Wigan Works campaign, an eye-catching and effective hub for businesses and startups where we get people into work and create apprenticeships. But challenge shift is at the heart of our customer access strategy, and we know we have to make our service provision cheaper, thereby allowing us to redirect resources into the front line. Registers, for example, have seen their phone calls reduced by 40%, whilst allowing residents to book their weddings online at any time. And I can announce tonight, members, that as of the 1st of April, and it's not an April Fool, right, we will be offering a web chat facility for some of our services, a facility that will stay open until 10 p.m. Our ambition is to ensure that everyone in the borough is digitally included and to promote Wi-Fi in public places so that everyone gets the opportunity to learn online skills. One example of this is our aim to provide free Wi-Fi in our sheltered accommodation across the borough, and it touches on what Councillor Cunliffe was talking about, social isolation and being connected to other people. We've set some challenging targets, and we aim to get everyone online, and that our local businesses benefit from the rollout of superfast broadband cabinets by 2020. But I can tell you, we're already ahead of schedule on our rollout of broadband cabinets. We want, I think, and this is really important, we want to make sure that all our children have access to the internet, especially in those areas of our wards that are known to be socially excluded, because that's where they haven't got access to the internet. And we know now that a lot of children are using the internet to do the homework, to educate themselves better, and we know that's going to be put for future years. So we want to try and tap into that and get rid of some of that socially exclusion that's taking place. This, of course, would help to gain employment in what now is widely recognised to be a major employment sector across the Greater Manchester in future years. And I would remind members what Best Company described us as, and I think the leaders touched on it or made it, and that is the class as a turbocharged organisation. That's some accolade. So, just to round off, Madam Mayor, I think it would be remiss of me if we didn't just touch on those awards that we have achieved for our digital strand and our transformation strategy. So, we have won the Go On UK North West Partnership Award, shortlisted for the Talk Digital Heroes Award. We was Local Government Digital Council of the Year, North West Informatic Awards 2015, Best Improvement in Patient Safety, and in recognition of our outstanding contribution for innovation and best practice, we were proud to be awarded the iNetwork Innovation Awards 2015 Outstanding Contribution from the top award. Madam Mayor, digital transformation is going to be the major key to making some of our savings. And it's not just about savings, it's about making our service better, whilst we're reducing their costs. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, this was obviously a bit of an experiment tonight to allow our colleagues to stand up and clearly Alan's enthusiasm enabled him to reveal the content of the next slide. But I just want to say the enthusiasm, expertise and pride that came across from the contribution of my colleagues. I want to thank them for the hard work they do and the service they put in for the people of the borough. And yes, there we are, described as a turbocharged organisation by the Best Council people, and that is really a reflection on the wonderful staff that we have in Wigan. It's been a difficult period for staff, obviously with less staff than we had before. The pay has not gone up in line with inflation because of the freezing look at the staff for a number of years, but still, clearly we have a very dedicated staff, a very committed, enthusiastic staff, and a lot of engaged with the public, and so I want to thank them for all of their hard work that they do. And finally, as I say, we've got to move on. We need to work and take advantage of devolution, and there's even more announcements I think to come on devolution in the budget coming up the next week, so we have to watch this space. We have the support of the residents in terms of their response to the deal, so I think we should do it. We're proud of it. We're still containing council tax. We're going to know with the second lowest, and we're going to mention that will be an objective to remain on the low side of council tax. There's a little bit of kind of extra work here for council reading, because in addition to the £2 million that we've already announced for the SIF funding, I wanted to take responsibility for another £500,000 to get Wigan on the move, because as Councillor Cunliffe stated, that we need to get prevention people with Wigan. We want to get people moving, all sorts of need to get more physically active. So this is an opportunity for our sporting clubs, for our community clubs, to get people doing small steps at first, which can become bigger steps in the future. Just getting them engaged and active. A lot of work is being done in other parts, but here we have an opportunity for people to bid in the way they bid to SIF funding to get that. So hopefully, Commissioner Oakman taking that additional responsibility on. So it's not been easy for years. I want to thank my colleagues for their support and the work they've done. Clearly the deal is a contribution of the senior management team and the cabinet working together to look to see what the future can bring. So thanks for the work we've done there. And on the financial side, obviously Paul McKenna and his team have given us the usual strong, firm and clear advice. And if I may finish, Madam Mayor, just to mention the team in particular, because despite his youthful appearance, Andrew Teller is not going to be with us next year. And so Andrew, thank you for all the work you've done for Wigan over a number of years, and we wish you well in your time.
Thank you, colleagues, for the way that you put the flash on the bones of the report. Thank you very much. Are those recommendations seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor, and I reserve the right to speak if necessary.
We have an amendment from Councillor Grundy. He's given notices that he wishes to move two amendments to the budget at this point. Councillor Grundy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, but my understanding was that I'd be able to speak to the substantive budget and then do my amendment.
I've been told you're doing it now.
Right. Well, I can do my amendments now if you prefer that.
Yeah, usually the amendments are voted on before the substantive motion, aren't they? So we need your amendment before we then go on. Okay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll amendments now, obviously, and then I will turn to talking about the main budget. Basically, the opposition decided that there were two things we'd like to include in this budget, relatively simple, and we did discuss them with Paul McCabe, so I'd like to thank them for being so helpful in making them competent for the vote. The first one was based on the town centre improvement plan put forward by Gary Wilkes, former leader of the opposition last year, but we did feel that it was flawed because it did refer to specific town centres. We thought, well, there's nothing in it if you're not one of the council places listed there. So we thought, and it builds on some things mentioned by cabinet members, we thought that the new scheme built on the community investment fund and complemented the existing two major town centre regeneration schemes would be appropriate. And this would be what would be known as the Small Town Village Centre Regeneration Fund, funded from £1 million per year over the next 3 years from the airport dividend. And the way, obviously, the way to work very similar, community investment funds, communities, small communities, that worked in the two major town centre regeneration schemes to be able to bid funds under, like I say, very similar schemes to community investment funds. Let's say, for example, in Aberdeen, we'll go shop, you can use shop plus, community might go to bid funds to help bring those to stand. Because we thought that we do think it's the right strategy to move forward with regeneration. Two major town centres, what about the small towns and villages? And this scheme, like I say, would be open to anyone that wants in the two big schemes already in existence, and it builds on the two schemes already first. And the second one, which is a small scheme, just to be clear, in the figures it says 50,000, that is a maximum, we're not expecting it to cost that. It's just a policy estimate that we factor in the figure of 50,000 as a cap, and we expect it to be substantially cheaper. And this is put together a business case as a pipeline scheme for the completion of the Aberley Way bypass, both north from Allerton and south from Lowton. Obviously, congestion is causing real problems until the end of the borough, and there are other parts of the borough affected as well. Now that we have the National Infrastructure Commission in place, it does mean that there could be money becoming available for completion of these bypasses, and I think it would be right to have one of these schemes in the draw, so if that money becomes available, we have a pipeline scheme now, we can go here, we want this finishing, with this money please. And I do know it's possible because I know Dave Morris, the MP from Morecambe, did in a similar way, managed to get the Eastern bypass completed during his first term of office as MP, but even though it had been debated for about 50 years beforehand, I think it's important we have the plan ready if the money does become available, as it did for the Eastern bypass. And those are our two amendments to the main budget. Just so you're aware, I was spoiling for you, but in the name, we'll be supporting the budget, and obviously, talk about it. See the opposite is always.
These are the amendments seconded.
As they are.
You wish to speak? Thank you. Leader, do you wish to accept these amendments? Is that no? Do any other members wish to speak on the amendments?
I'll speak, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, there will be a chance for you to respond to any other people who speak. So, does anybody else want to speak before we move on? Councillor Hill, would you want to speak at this point?
Well, I'll just contribute on the amendments. Can I thank Councillor Grundy for the positive way he moved his amendment. I want to be sympathetic, although we won't accept the actual particular amendment he wanted. I'm glad he thought that Paul McKellick was helpful. I seem to remember from the Yes Minister programme, Humphrey at that point had said, I'm glad you thought so, Minister. But put that to one side. I think the small towns and villages scheme, I
see that's obviously got an acronym STV, and I think we have a Conservative advocating STV, which is perhaps an unusual position for you to be in, James, but I think we understand the sentiments. Actually, if we were to accept this, we'd probably spend less money than we're probably going to do anyway on this particular area. So I want to say that where there are particular schemes, we will look at them and review them to come forward. I don't think we want to commit to spend a particular amount of money. And I think, if we're honest too, given the report that came out earlier in the week from the British Retail Confederation about the future of retailing, we don't want simply to be propping up areas of retail, but really we ought to be saying that, that might have been a place that we had shopping in the 1950s when people didn't have cars, didn't move on, but maybe we need to think about how we get the right shopping for the 21st century in the borough. But I accept the point we need to be flexible in what we do, which is both a physical thing, but also I think in terms of getting footfall, it's not just physical, is it? It might be we want to sponsor events in communities. And actually, like there's been in Wigan today, I've been up there, I understand there's an international food festival in the main street of Wigan. And that obviously, what we're doing today is great, but that kind of attracts people in who wouldn't normally come. So it may be that we do something that attracts people in one of our smaller communities to do that. So it's not just a physical change we want to do, and so on. So I hope you understand that, but if there are schemes you want to bring forward, please do so, and we will consider them on a scheme-by-scheme basis. On the other point about other leeway, I think it is an ambition of the council to do exactly what he says. I complete the road, so in a sense it's done a... I was actually, many years ago, I was quite critical of the concept, but it actually has done a good job for what it is. But clearly, if you could get it linked up to the M61 in Bolton and through to the M6 south, then it would actually be a great addition. I think the problem is going to be, as he writes, is finding the money to pay for the scheme. Actually, how we're going to build up getting them. Now, we've managed to do so on the A49 extension of the roads. We got Greater Manchester. We could prove the economic impacts of those schemes. So we will look, and in fact, Deputy Leader and I were talking about the scheme only earlier today with a potential, somebody who thinks it would be a good idea to do it because obviously it suits their particular plans. And so that's how we're going to do it. So certainly if we need to spend money, we'll do that. We won't commit amount of money, but I can assure him again that if we get to the point where we can put it on the schemes, we will make sure we have the arguments to justify that, because you're not going to get money with whatever funding source these days unless some individual company thinks they're going to benefit from it, or we can assume the public general will create growth and wealth that actually can justify this spending. We did that with the busway, we did with the other schemes, so the Wigan schemes currently beginning to be developed. As I say, we've shown what we can do, and we'll do it the way as and when we need to. So, thank you for his comments. We will, well, we need to, particularly if he has any schemes in mind for some retail activity, then bring them forward.
Councillor Holton, sorry, I'm going to ask again. You want to speak or you don't? Right. Councillor Grundy, do you wish to make a closing statement?
I will, with regards to the two amendments, Madam Mayor. Is this on? No. Do you know, I thought it was loud enough, I could manage without it anyway. Just making sure. No, thank you for those comments. Obviously, just on this, you mentioned that your first budget was put forward in 1983. Just for reference, this is my first budget response to leader of the opposition. But in 1983, when you put your first one, I was 4. So obviously, it kind of shows the passage of time. I And once again, I will actually commend Peter Smith on the way he responded to our amendments. Obviously, I'm disappointed we're not going through, but I welcome the positive way that he responds to them by saying, well, we can't do it exactly this way, but you're behind the principle of doing them, especially with regard to small towns and village centres, the improvement there, the commitment that you may be able to spend more money on that than we were intending. Welcome, because obviously getting them going again, getting them vibrant, that brings in money. It's not just spending money, it's spending really more, especially because it's coming back to us. I also especially welcome this positive vision that we are going to gradually move towards getting the annual wage complete. But like I say, it's going to be a long time coming. It probably needs a decade to make it a reality, and it's finding the money. But if we can get this money from national government by justifying it as a necessary piece of infrastructure, and I believe in the National Infrastructure Commission, it is doable. I think ideally on a cross-party basis, then we should do so. And I think we won't find any in there. So basically, as I said, I'm disappointed you won't be supporting the amendments, but I do welcome the manner in which you responded to them. And obviously, I'll sit down now so we can vote on that, and I'll come back to speak on the main body of the budget after we vote.
Yes, we'll take you to the vote now, so members, please use the electronic voting system as we have to on the amendment. All those in favour of Councillor Grundy's amendment? Thank you. It's not, the amendments have not been carried. We're now back to the original motion, which, of course, Councillor Dudley will be able to speak. Don't worry, I've got it down. Are there any members who wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Kelly? Okay. Councillor Fairhurst?
Okay, so now after the welcome stuff, we start with the
the deal, which is obviously one of the council's campaigns, if you like, going forward, they want people to help out. There's nothing wrong necessarily with that, people helping out. People want to help out and get involved, that's fantastic. They should be able to do that. What, if we do something though, we should stick to it. We have the deal that was passed round, and people signed up to it. Councillor, being you're going to get back to me with how many people actually signed up. So, still don't have that data yet.
Well, you had an email from Maris.
Okay, fine. So, what we've done is we said we would freeze the council tax, but actually, and I appreciate it's not us, our idea, it's the government's idea, but we've raised it by 2%. So the first core thing, value that we said as part of the deal, we've broken or amended. We've got to stick to what we said, otherwise people will lose trust in what we're doing. And I think that's the key to the way we try and do. We've got to build trust with the people who we represent. When we're talking about money, it's also worthwhile to think about the money that we've got that we're not utilising, or the money that we're paid people who invest for us. I talked about the Bright Borough Fund. I've asked repeatedly for the figure of unspent Bright Borough. I believe one more has 50,000 in its pot from its return. The residents are actually trying to access it as that. And it's struggling, not my part of the borough. So, I've not got the figures. I've heard the figure is between 500 and 600,000 in unspent between us all. Now, it may be that some of you are saving something for schemes, and that's fine. If you agree something with the community, no problem at all. But if we've got that fund at the right borough, and we get the allowance every year, I think we should work it like we do with the other funds and the other budgets within the council. For example, if we give a department a set of money and they don't spend it by the end of that year, what happens is next year we don't necessarily get the same amount. We say you might know that, fantastic. So I think, although the level stays the same, what we can actually do with the private borough is any unspent money at the year end, community groups can access that. It has all the lose it, and they'll start again each year with the same amount. Because unless we're doing something specific, we're sitting on large sums of money doing nothing for our community. And if we want this deal to work, and we want to work with communities, they should be able to access that money. We talk about the funding, we talk about housing, we want another 5,000 housing by 2020. But if you look at the standing proportion, we're at 1,840, once we got the last 20 applications through. We're taking 40% of the burden of the extra houses, and there's 25 wards. Standish is seen as a cash cow. That's how residents feel. £30 million is coming to Sandwich for all these houses, but we keep 5 million. People in Sandwich feel aggrieved that we're propping up with it, and we get very little back. We move on to the business rate. The government has changed it so we can keep 100% of the business rate. That is something another leader said we want to capitalise and bring in. But unless we start working with the community, i.e. in the community that I represent, and I know one of the cabinet members said car park, I'd like the number of car parks coming, because Standish desperately need the car park, because otherwise businesses are failing. I get emails every single week from businesses saying we're struggling, and even can't park. Now, what will happen is they'll move out, and we'll lose those businesses in the community. And then therefore we'll lose the rates. I hear about big businesses on Martin Millicent looking to go out to Skelter's here because it's cheaper, which is something not necessarily we have a direct influence on. But it's better infrastructure because we can get on the motorway project. And therefore, they're able to work with business effectively. So we need to invest seriously in the transport infrastructure in the borough. And I think Councillor Lundgren mentioned that all about part of the Emily Way. We got, as part of the consultation, 1,000 people responded. And the Councillor Smith said 80% said it was great. But we've got, what, 300,000 plus residents in Wigan. So can we really say 1,000 is actually representative? We've got to look at why we didn't get more than hundreds of thousands of people that we didn't engage with. We need to see what they think. I appreciate that the ruling group will always want to support the positives, and that's fine, everybody gets that. One thing I would have thought of tonight, and I would have expected, is an apology. Because one thing this council got seriously wrong, that's cost vast amounts of money, damaged the reputation significantly, is a certain TV programme called Don't Blame the Council. Now, whatever happened going through there, we should have apologised. And maybe the council wants to apologise to the people of the borough, because TV companies will edit to things. Well, that footage was real. It wasn't made up. And I think the very least we should do tonight is apologise to the people of Wigan how that came across and how that was through and how we worked. The living wage. I know Councillor Cunliffe mentioned about people support the living wage. Well, then ultimately said it's a burden on us. Well, you can't have it both ways. You're either for it or against it. And of course, if it increases, it's going to be a burden. So then you can't complain about that later on.
Point of explanation. I never said. The point of explanation is on something I said in my speech, which Councillor Ferrer seems to listen to. I didn't think it was a burden. I said we support the national living wage and think it's right. I am saying that that will cost the council £10 million in terms of our payments to other providers. So I'm not saying it's a burden, but I'm saying it's a cost that we will have to cover over the next 4 years.
Councillor Cummins is correct, that was what I did say.
I'm not disputing what he said. I read it on the screen. I was on the slideshow.
Councillor, get on with it.
That's fine. Also, one of the major things that I read the cabinet reports that go through each week and how things are happening and things like that. And obviously, the council moral body, rightly so, for various things to be CFI projects that we've already entered into agreement. Some of them are quite costly. And what I would like to see is the council do an evaluation whether they're the best deal at the moment, or are there other things where the council can refinance some of those. And yes, there will be penalties to get out of some clause. But if the benefit outweighs the exit clause, then that's surely the better way of making that money work for us. Things, as Councillor Smith said, are going to get tougher. Things are tough. So we have to work smarter. Councillor Halliwell talks about digital age, and that's fine. But we have to make the work better. But what we have to do is apologise to the people. And we also have to work better and smarter. And we need businesses, and we need communities supported. Thank you.
Councillor Grundy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for giving me a chance to respond. Obviously, I've covered the amendments already. This is the opposite way around I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be speech first, then amendments. So do forgive me if I repeat anything that I've mentioned before. First of all, I think it's well worthwhile thanking the senior officers for all the work they've done on this budget. We realise it's an incredibly busy time of year. I already thank Paul for his help. You know, I've always said this before, and I think it's worth repeating. In many ways, elected members are elected to do their job, but the officers serve as our arms and legs when it comes to actually implementing these things. And so thank you again to not just the senior officers, but also to work the council, especially in the current difficult conditions. Because they are difficult, let's be honest, we are facing substantial financial pressures because of the cuts we've got. But what I would say is, in many ways, what we've done is we've actually ended up cutting money to the community services, but as a result, providing far superior services to some of the ones we were providing when we had a lot more money. And we've done it by reducing things like reducing the senior management team from 75 to 25. You know, I would absolutely commend some more innovative work we've been doing, including the deal and the work of apprenticeships, veterans home, the community infrastructure fund. This is all good stuff, and I think the Metropolitan Borough are actually leading the way on this in the country. And I do think there are lessons for other councils to learn from us in terms of how we are doing these things. That's not to say that I agree with everything we do before someone jumps on me and says, too easy on them. There are, of course, things, you know, we're still spending what I think is too much on things like the borough line. We're still employing full-time trade union representatives who cost £100,000 a year. Those are relatively minor schemes and ground schemes. You know, but it is well worth saying what we do well. I've always wanted to be fair with the opposition to say we do some things very well. Council Platt referred to Wigan Prize. Well, not often I get to play Lady Bountiful, but as you know, I've been involved in supporting it. I can actually announce tonight that I have actually got private businessmen to support us. So we're likely getting, depending on the amount of money, the amount of work we're asking for, the literature being produced for it will either be free or at a discount. So as you will know very well, the business will be sorting out on it. So yes, I get to announce them. In terms of you know, the stuff that I'm going to have to pull you up on, though, I am going to have to pull you up on it. You know, we've presented a good budget, good reason, but then we rather marred it by getting to the core of this and saying, oh, it's the cuts, it's the government, the wicked government. We point out, in terms of funding, you know, on that list we came up at the beginning of Lord Smith, we saw Trafford. Now, Trafford is the nearest Conservative controlled metropolitan borough, so the nearest council of the same type was controlled by the Conservative. We get £55 million per year as block grant from central government. Trafford only gets 30 million. Now we match them, and due credit to us matching them in terms of only the 2% private social care, and the second lowest council tax in Greater Manchester. But Trafford has the lowest in Greater Manchester. That's just by getting 25 million less in block grants than us. So, you know, we're probably the most efficient Labour authority in Greater Manchester, but Trafford is still beating us with almost half the money. Those wicked Conservatives, they've only given the Conservative Trafford half the money they're giving us. You know, it just goes to show it isn't political. In terms of some of the other authorities, I think it's worth pointing out that the same is true, that most of those get very small amounts of central government block grant, whereas obviously we've always had very significant amounts of government block grant. Not that they can't try to do better as well. They always like to try and hold people to the same standard. But it is worth pointing out, you know, even after the cuts, we're still significantly getting more money from the government than Conservative controlled authorities nearby. And we also put this thing, because it seems to come from nowhere. I thought as committed socialists, you'd be able to turn around and say, look, we're clearing the black hole in this budget with this money from adult social care because it's the responsible thing to do. Because that's what I'm going to say. Because, you know, from my point of view, it's about getting rid of deficit. So you've pitched on this idea that, well, we need to do this, but I know, we'll call it the Osborne tax. Well, let me be clear, there is no such thing as the Osborne tax. It's not a new tax, it's not a predecessor or anything else. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Members, please let me continue.
Because Paul McGarry very helpfully emailed us and said it's just an increase in council tax that we're limited to spending on adult social care. So it's not a separate tax, it's not a predecessor or anything else according to our own financial officer. And it's the right thing to do because adult social care is increasing pressure. And we are, like you say, the present aging population. But the point is, it's not as though George Osborne grabbed over the Peter in an arm lock and said, get it up that 2%, get it up the Peter, and oh, never get it past the group, I've only got a majority of 53. You know, it's just not true. We had a choice whether to sign up to it or not. We signed up to it because it was a sensible thing to do. But as we heard, you know, over 90% of councils have signed up to it, but some haven't. They've been able to find a way to do it without going with this. But there is one thing that hasn't been mentioned, especially since we're talking about this, but we haven't mentioned, and Peter must know about this because he's the portfolio holder for this in Greater Manchester level, is the £450 million social care, which was told to me by the leader of Trafford. If it's helpful, this Steve O'Hank stuff, you get to speak to your colleagues in other parts of Greater Manchester, and perhaps find out about things you're not being told in your own account. So Peter always gives a good speech, but sometimes it's important to listen to what he's not telling you as much as he is telling you. On balance, as I say, there are things that could be improved, but the council is heading in the right direction. 2% is a responsible, sensible thing to do. Just to let you know, I haven't been able to convince all of the opposition about this, although I've done my best. I don't think I would be comfortable voting against this rise, and I'll say this, it's the first time I've ever voted for a tax rise in my entire career as a councillor. But that's because it's a responsible thing to do. And I'll actually commend you for doing it. I'm disappointed the way you've made what I think is a bad fish of presenting trying to play George Osborne, because I think it's the right thing to do for moral and sensible reasons. I don't think you need to blame it on George Osborne. It would be nice if we've all said up and said, yeah, this is the moral, responsible way to manage this platform. Aside from that, one mistake that I think we made, I do think this budget is decent, this to be what we're doing. I'm willing to offer my support, as is my Conservative colleague, and hopefully some of the independents as well. And on that basis, I would say, hopefully let's move forward on this budget, and let's be in discussion, and let's see how we go on in the next couple of years. But please, no more Osborne tax.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Don Hodgkinson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to comment on this budget. This 4-year 2% levy compounded is earmarked for helping fund the shortfall in adult social care and is part of the council tax. It is not compulsory. If council can find other funding, they're free to do so. It is very naive of the chancellor to think that a Labour communistic council, such as Wigan, would not seize on the opportunity and name this the Osborne tax. This, at the same time, allowing them to claim they are keeping the council tax at zero, as promised in the deal. Next year we'll have a fallow year for the local elections, so watch this space. The last time they did put council tax up. If this proposal is passed tonight, we will be setting a dangerous precedent for the future fundraising. Every time there is a financial pressure on a priority service, is an earmarked levy attached to the council tax going to be created side by side with the council tax? This is a slippery slope. Once we have got this money in, we will find we can't manage without it, and inflation will keep in. So we never know whether this actual levy will ever be taken off. We don't know yet. Fortunately, residents who do not pay council tax will not pay the adult social care levy because no more benefit rules apply. Although it is described as a levy, in reality it is a 2% council tax rise and should be reported as such. I doubt very much this will be reported accurately in the forthcoming local elections, leaflets by the Wigan for ministers. We will have to come back as the election proceeds. Am I allowed to comment on the other things that the cabinet have made?
happened to switch the radio on Sunday night at 5:10 and Fire on 4 was on. And this chap was complaining about being diagnosed with dementia. And during the programme, it said 40% of diagnostic consultations with dementia are inaccurate. So there seems to be a lot of leeway of money to be saved in the dementia in adult social care. Now, I don't know anybody else in this council, but I'm on water, and I vote for the sin in Ashton. And every time my book is stamped, even if the blood test is perfect, the book has to go to Wigan and they send it back to me. Now, why can't they give it back? Now, this must be all over Wigan Borough. Just imagine the money that would be saved.
So you're out of time.
I'd like to comment on...
Councillor, you're out of time. You can't have a joke. Before I bring anyone else in, I don't want a list of how well your children have done. Please don't do that. Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I should speak. I'm relieved to learn that I don't have any children, so that's not a thing that I'll be following. Well, I'll try and get a bit closer to it then. All I wanted to do was follow up on a couple of the points that have been made this evening. And the first one is to do with the survey from Borough Life, when we've been told that there were just over 1,000 returns. I think Councillor Fairhurst in his submission seemed to think that that number wasn't quite adequate. Well, you know, we get bombarded by opinion polls in the general elections. You know, they're used to try and predict the result of national elections. And if you look at the sample size, usually it's just over 1,000. So I think if you can predict the result of a general election from 1,000 returns, and you know, the results are generally regarded as statistically robust, then I think we can have some confidence on basing basically where we go forward from the results that we return from that survey. Another thing that Councillor Fairhurst did, he invited the leader to apologise for the TV documentary Don't Blame the Council. Well, I'm glad you've raised apologies, because I was wondering if you'd like to apologise, because you can't tell apart when you see one, and cause the council to unnecessarily spend £32,000, which it didn't do. And you were in the mood to revise the right of borough funding works.
Councillor, can we just stay with the budget response? No, okay, just be careful.
Isn't right of borough funding come under the budget? And one thing that Council Fair has suggested is that funds spent by the borough money should not be allowed to be rolled over into the next year. Isn't that the method by which she accrued the funds to invest in a statue for George Formby?
Before I bring Councillor Hallowell in, can I just ask Councillor Ferris, you've gone off the list, you're now back on. Can I bring Councillor Ferris in first and then Councillor Hallowell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. First of all, I would like to talk about adult services and say, from my experience and from my wife's experience, they've been absolutely fantastic. Those officers would not do enough for my wife. What do you want? When you want it, we'll bring it tomorrow. You can have it today. They were really, really first class, and they need to be applauded. Two other things on the other side of the fence. When we're talking of saving money, which is good, I noticed two establishments in Wigan. One is the Lodge Gate at Wigan Park, which was let to go to rack and ruin and must have cost, I don't know how many millions to put right. The second one is where I had my daughter's wedding reception, the mother-in-law reception there, two of the meals there, etc. Fantastic. And somebody told me months and months ago, George, if you go in that place, you will cry. They just let it go to rack and ruin. And I hope, I'll tell you everything in a minute where it is, I hope we've learned our lessons with this, because this is costing money. And this second one, we've had to bring outside help to get us out of the mire. That's it all. I think to let places get to that state, we've got to stop going down that road and do the maintenance when it is needed, not when it's let run and run so it was worse and worse. So that's my contribution.
Councillor Howland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm glad Councillor Grundy brought up the George Osborne tax, because I do think it exists, and I was going to refer to it tonight as well. Because we all know that it's been waging an ideological class war on the controlled councils and town halls across the north. In fact, these newly introduced criteria associated with the allocation of the transitional grants confirm this, and has been urged to criticise because it's clearly biased towards wealthy Conservative councils. But I can't help thinking let's take some inspiration from Tolkien's great book of fiction, Lord of the Rings. Now, 83% of this transitional relief went to Tory councils, and indeed, if you're wealthy enough to reside in Middle-earth, or live in the Shire, like the Prime Minister does, you're guaranteed a sprinkling of George Osborne's version of fiscal immortality to the tune of several millions of pounds. Clearly being a hobbit in Osborne's field of dreams is advantageous, and it's somewhere we should all now aspire to live in. Ian Duncan-Smith's also read the book, and taken on some of the characteristics of one of the characters, and is now known as, recognised to be universally hated, just like Gollum is, and he is residing in Middle-earth. Now, I know the leader is highly revered for his fiscal dexterity and acumen over many years, and he's quite tall, and he sports silver hair, but he's no Gandalf the Grey. I can tell you, I've had a look in his office. He hasn't got a magic staff where he can turn night into day. Indeed, Paul McKevin, our Treasurer, Borough Treasurer, is no gimp. And Councillor Kenny can confirm that he doesn't have a secret hoard of gold squirreled away in the secret tunnels of Grey Hall. And I can also reveal that the Chief Executive, whilst renowned nationally for shining a bright light in dark places, does not possess elven powers. And I'm certainly no Frodo Baggins. I'm not weighed down by a magic gold ring that can make bad things disappear. Even Wigan's own Ian McKenna can't get us through this one. We are on our own. Now, the other criteria, of course, for a little bit of extra money from the Chancellor appears to be some strong words from the Claus Ante or from Cameron's mum to sign a petition objecting to cuts in her Leatherfield Shire. So I assume the Conservatives in the borough in this chamber will, will write a strongly worded letter to the Chancellor and Mr Cameron complaining of how unfair and specious the cuts have been to this borough and the fact that we haven't received any transitional grant, and it is, in my estimation, a blatant attempt at gerrymandering. So instead of playing last-minute politics to gain a few extra votes with your amendment, I think Councillor Grundy should do something a little bit more constructive for the people of Wigan. So, for example, undertake a visit to our family history centre, which is free, find some lineage to George Osborne and Cameron, and write a strongly worded letter that may go something like this. Look here, old boy. It appears there were 6 cousins on your mother's side, 10 times removed. And it really is bad form not to reward us with some transitional relief. I can guarantee the people of Wigan will be jolly grateful if we could find a way to resolve this. Now, in reality, the only similarities our Labour strategy has with Tottenham's Great Boom, where it really matters, is our transformation strategy, which is based on our 2 pillars of growth and reform, which the leader referred to earlier. And this is aligned with our corporate plan, and it demonstrates fairness across the board. So, Madam Mayor, it's worth reminding that analysis shows 83% of the new fund went to Tory-run councils, mostly in the Southern Shires. The biggest beneficiary was Surrey, which will get 24, 19 million for Hampshire, 16 million for Berkshire, 14 million to Essex, and on and on and on it goes. Tell me that is fair. I don't think so. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In response to Terry Halliwell, I believe I already explained this on my response that even after all the cuts, we're still getting 25 million more in Conservative traffic. So on balance, the fact that we're still getting so much more after all the cuts, yes, it is fair. I've already explained it, but since Robinson District Television, I suspect he won't listen to me. We're going round in circles. It was very much a case of there and back again.
Before I allow Councillor Walker to speak, can I just add to the list of children's results, no personal health stories, no weddings and no fairy tales. Councillor Walker.
Thanks. Probably, I'm not one I stood up for, but I think it's worth reminding ourselves that block grant is actually based on need. So the bigger the need, the bigger the grant you get. And to be honest, I know there's a lot of very needy footballers involved in part of the Trafford Council that keep on telling us how wonderful it needs that block grant is. But we've not got many in Wigan. Or if we have, and we have got quite a lot, some of them play on higher falls, and they're great, but they're not on any money at all. In fact, they're chipping in every week. So just a reminder, and of course, their population's about a third less than ours as well. So we won't get involved in those simple statistics, but that's part of the deal with block grant. But just moving on, because I do think, I want to go back to the theme that we had about the deal and how we involve our community, but how we've got a much better partnership arrangement than we ever had. And I just want to use as a very simple example, Firefall Community Centre, a very, very important part of the community, my part, of the proud part of the league. It's doing a fabulous job, and it got some SIF funding. And that SIF funding kept us afloat, if I'm absolutely honest, but we've been looking at how we could batten down the hatches to find a survival route, and we'd manage it, because we always do. But we would, in the process, lose lots of the facilities that we're giving as part of the deal to the community. And we all know, because we've all got community centres, we run our youth club from there, and we run all the services that are really important to those people. So we've been really concerned, those of us, Anita and Keith and I, all on board of the community centre, about what's been going on, about lottery funding. Because we've applied and applied and applied. And we've had, these are not just rubbish bits, these are really good professional bits. And it really felt to me like what's really made the difference, because yesterday we got the announcement. We've got 300k over the next 3 years. And that means we can continue to deliver the level of service that we've been proud of delivering for a number of years. Far better than when, to be honest, it was council, far, far better. A really good service for that community. But I'm absolutely sure that although we were committed, and the people that we employed at the community centre also, they've done a fabulous job, but without that pressure from the council. Because, I'm sorry, but we were turned down again. We were turned down again last summer, and that was about the third go we've had, and they said, just tweak this and this and this. We tweaked everything, and we did even more than they said, and we still got turned down. And I'm absolutely sure it was because of the way that the people within this council, and some of our partners as well, some of the health partners that we also deal with, made that difference and put that pressure on the lottery fund, because we all know we've had a poor deal out of lottery funding. They talk the talk, but we've had a poor deal. And we've been consistently saying it, but that wasn't enough. So a big thank you to everybody, but particularly to some of our officers who I know have added that extra weight onto that battle. And yesterday was the day we got the announcement that we've got that money. So thank you on behalf of the community centre at Hanningford.
Thank you for that information, Councillor Walker. Councillor Conley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a pity you've ruled out grandchildren because I've got 12, so I can't go through them. I just wanted to pick up, and Councillor Walker covered part of it, was Councillor Grundy's statements about Trafford and realising that the size of Trafford is much less than Wigan. And in fact, the levels of deprivation in Wigan are much higher than they are in Trafford. And to say that if I was a recipient of adult social care, and I will be in a few years' time, I would rather live in Wigan than Trafford. Because Trafford last year found a £6 million black hole in its adult social care budget. Why? Because they hadn't done the type of things we have done in Wigan about improving services. Trafford is leaking officers from adult social care, and evidently most of the people coming out say it's in crisis. So, you know, if you're going to be needing adult social care, live in Wigan and not Trafford. So, the other thing I want to take on this is 2%. Because I have some agreement with what Councillor Hodgkinson says. If you think about it, what Osborne said was the truth that the health service cannot function effectively without good social care. Totally agree with it. The truth we need to confront is that many local authorities are not going to be able to meet growing social care needs unless they have new sources of funding. Totally agree with it. That in the end comes from the taxpayer. Yes, it does. So what can he do? He says local authorities who are responsible for social care can levy a precept of up to 2% to be ring-fenced for social care. Now, I think it's a dangerous precedent to set taxes that are specifically allocated to a particular area. So I do agree with you on that. But the issue is, I outlined the issues that we and challenges we face up to 2020. And you talk about us having 8 million from this. Demographic change and inflation puts £10 million alone. Dealing with responding to providers who are paying the national living wage and the increase in that will add £10 million to our costs. Plus the savings we have to contribute towards the £60 million that's got to be saved over the next few years. So yes, I agree. I mean, my answer to the Chancellor was, you were right to there, it needs to be funded by the taxpayer, and it should be funded through grant on the basis of need in the area. Because, you know, we have a rapidly rising population, we have great deprivation and need, much more than some of them, and places like Westminster, for instance, their tax base means 2% brings in a lot more money than 2% brings in here. So, is that? You mentioned about dementia. I think we've done a lot on dementia. I mean, the dementia-friendly community scheme that's going across the borough is bringing great advantages to people with dementia. And certainly what's happening in terms of older people and people with dementia, over the next year or so, they will be working with housing providers and housing associations. There'll be nearly 400 units of extra care housing for older people and people with dementia. That is around enabling people with dementia to live independently in their own homes with support for as long as possible. Because I don't think there's anybody who says, when I get older, I want to live in a residential home. So that will be a great way of enabling people to live independently. And just quickly, it was on Councillor Ferrer's bit about when we talk about young people and needing to look after people who've been made redundant. There's a great health impact on being made unemployed. And I think he's quite right in terms of you know, we need to work with young people, develop resilience and work with them. But older people who suffer a redundancy would affect people who are unemployed with worse physical and mental health. But it might not be a health input, it might be around skills development, training, job opportunities and economic regeneration. And that needs to be our whole health portfolio, and that's right.
Thank you, Councillor Mulnex.
Yeah, just to pick on what Councillor Cullen was saying in respect to Gareth's comments, and thank you for the comments on the apprenticeships. So apprenticeships are not just for young people these days. I think there's a lot of us think back to you left school at 16 and you went and did apprenticeships a bit more than that now. And people well into the 20s and 30s can actually do apprenticeships as well. But part of our budget is to retain the business engagement team. And it's very important we retain the business engagement team because it's not only about retaining employment in the borough, it's about creating employment in the borough. And when you consider over the last 12 months or so, we've been reporting about sites that are now being developed which will create employment. And it is important that people from all ages and all walks of life get job opportunities. And I think by the fact that we've created the sites of Graydons, created sites of Westwood, and we now start looking at thousands of jobs being created across the borough, it's important that we do retain that part of our budget that encourages people to come to Wigan, to come to invest in Wigan, and come and develop in Wigan. And just on the side of the car parking in Standish, because of the deal, because of working closely with the Standish boys, sites have now been identified in Standish, and we will be able to deliver the car parking in Standish. It's not my fault that members who represent Standish don't engage in the deal or with Standish boys. But what I can say is that we will find the sites in Standish, we will create the car parking sites in Standish, and it's down to a lot of our good by people in Standish boys. And that kind of answers the questions that have been asked tonight. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, members. I'm going to close now members speaking, but we have some questions from the Youth Cabinet and then the leader will be summing up. As you're aware, Wigan Youth Cabinet regularly attends our council meetings, and so we've engaged with them to sort their views on the proposed budget. I'd like to welcome Laura, see over the top, hello Laura, from the Youth Cabinet, and they've submitted the following 3 questions in relation to the council's proposed budget. Question 1 is from Alban. How is the council going to deal with the lack of funding for public buildings? Question 2 is from Rory himself. Are there means by which a citizen, such as himself, may have a greater say in where spending is and isn't cut? And finally, question 3 is from Matthew. With limited funding and with more groups applying for funds and delivering services themselves, how will the council ensure quality of service as a state, and how will they ensure that services can continue to deliver once the support funding ceases? I presume that the leader's got a copy of these questions. Could I ask the leader to respond to those questions as part of his summing up? But before I do that, on behalf of the council, can I thank the Youth Cabinet members for engaging with the council on its proposed budget, their insightful questions, and for attending the meeting tonight, Rory, and good luck in Leeds. Leader, I know that
grateful that the council isn't full of the members of the council. I'm sure the contributions would be more sensible than what from some members tonight. On the first question about lack of funding for buildings, I think it depends on the building and how we use it. We certainly will cut down on the numbers of buildings, and as I think Councillor Kenny said in his report back, we spent money on this building, but actually we're now getting more use of it, more staff employed in this building, so we can get rid of other buildings which were more costly to use. For example, in Tilsley, where we were finding it difficult to support the continuing use of the swimming pool in Tilsley, we got the Phoenix Group came forward, run it as a community asset, and they do a really good job. They can access money that we couldn't get as a council, and it's working very well. So we will respond in ways that are appropriate to particular buildings, but clearly the council will occupy less buildings, and I think, as I said in the comments from the consultation, then that's what really we think people want. At the end of the day, they want services that people could use rather than buildings. In terms of how can the second question about contribution and how can members ever say, well, we normally do have a consultation on an annual basis on the budget. We ask people about it so you can get engaged with that, but clearly, as I explained, we do the deal in action where we go around the borough, we can get engaged in that. It can even be, as Councillor Anderson said, on the deal for your street. If that's all we want to get engaged with, is making sure that where you live looks better, and so then you can get engaged and clean for the Queen and get it cleaned up, and we'll support you in that. In transferring some monies to community groups to continue services, obviously we do need to make sure that we maintain good quality, but in a sense it probably will be a different service than we provided. It's not always easy to judge one service from another. I know that, for example, we're very proud of the work done by the community group at Sunshine House, and when they transferred and received the daycare for people who've been in elder people in daycare at the centre, then when they first went through, they were a little bit concerned, and as Barbara said, it came to dinner time, she said, and we said, what do you want for your dinner? And they looked bemused, because normally at the daycare centre, if it was Monday, they'd have hot pots, Tuesday it would be some pie. They didn't have a choice, and here, because they have a cafe, they can choose what goes on. And they can observe or participate in lots of different activities. So actually, we think the quality is really good, but it's different to what we do. But in a sense, we'll be hard. You know, Chris knows it's, on one hand, he's got a good job because he's giving money away. But the make of a time, the look of a time, we have to say to a group, I'm sorry, you promised us you'd deliver these services. It's not happening. Then we can't continue to fund you, and we will make those difficult decisions. So, Madam Mayor, I'll then turn to the contributions from members of the council. Councillor Cunliffe has covered, I think, the 2% council tax rather than needs for that, and the fact that it's from central government. And come on, you know, James, you're in politics. This will get be called the Osborne tax. There is no bedroom tax, but everybody knows what we mean when we use that term. There never was a poll tax. Well, there was in the Middle Ages, but at least there was never a poll tax. But nobody called it the community charge except Margaret Thatcher. And even Tory ministers now who call it the poll tax in fact. So, in a sense, you know, these things get attributes, and I'm sure the Chancellor will know that. But maybe not what his attribute was. As the quote says very clearly, it's his idea. As Councillor Cummins said, he had a choice. He could have funded it from national taxation through giving grants to council. He chose not to do it that way around. He chose to put the charge to the council taxpayer, which is unfair. In terms of Brighton Borough, what Councillor Ferris, I think he's thinking of an old-fashioned way which councils want to manage the budgets. Because although we do allocate budgets on an annual basis, what used to happen, of course, is when you got around end of January, February and March, there was absolute panic in different departments.
and they go out and spend money on all sorts of things to make sure they spend the money on those. We're much more going to now control how they spend it and what they spend it. We don't want just to do it on an annual basis and waste money in those last few months. So we do have to carry forward budgets right across the council. That's a sensible thing to do. We allocate money for snow clearance. How do we know, in this budget, how much snow we're going to have next winter? We don't know. We're putting enough money, hopefully. If we don't, we'll have to take it out of balance. So that's how we do it. Right of borough, in a sense, is no different to that. Although, I take this point, we need to encourage members to engage with their job. All members here are community leaders. They need to get engaged with the local community and use that money, if possible, to back up the work that Councillor Reid is doing with the city. So I think that is important. Just to echo the point that definitely you made about, and you're right, we do need to think not only about young people, although we were conscious of the apprentices, that is important. So we have a living wealth scheme in Wigan, and the reports we've had about the positive results we get from people who are on that. We also, across Greater Manchester, have taken on the extension of the work programme, which frankly was pretty useless on a national programme. So we took people who've been through the work programme nationally twice and failed to get employment. And we do Working Well programme funded across Greater Manchester, and we're getting 10, 15, 20% of people into jobs. These are people who may have great personal living, so we're getting to it, so we don't forget that all the part of the community either. I only tend to apologise for Don't Blame the Council, because that wasn't the way Wigan Council works. It was a deliberate distortion by the television company to exaggerate, to encourage people to behave in a way they wouldn't normally have done. And so we've adopted a proper style. And I think if you contrast that with the TV series Call the Council, where you can see actually what positive response we do when staff are working well. So I'm very content with that. We do use, where we can, in fact, we do have a borrowing strategy which comes to the Cabinet on a regular basis for capital. And because we have reserves, we don't simply borrow money. If we don't need to, we can use reserves, because it is obviously cheaper to do it that way than to borrow money. We do lend some money out. Please, Councillor Breed is not here, but I don't want to explain to get. When we lend money out, we do get interest, even if it's not a huge amount of interest, because nobody gets huge amounts of interest in these days. But we have past debts, and we need to balance up whether, for some of those debts which we've taken out at times when interest rates are a lot higher, whether the cost of surrendering, which we put on top of the borrowing, makes it worthwhile to do that. And we passed the Cabinet one of those schemes there where we'll be saving money by getting rid of a debt we've taken out, and that's so where it's appropriate. We'll do that. I think I'm going to ask Paul McKellar to go to members and try and explain council funding perhaps in a clearer way than he's done in the past. Clearly, when Councillor Cunliffe described the differences between Wigan and Trafford, he really showed the fact that maybe I have been around since 1853, but I said he hasn't. Because it's not just, as members said, about the income from council tax. In fact, if you go around Ale and Bowden, then there's lots of expensive property that bring in a lot of council tax. Then it's also that's business rates. Trafford Centres in Trafford, the name gives it away. And that gives a huge amount of business rate. And that's the issue about localising business rate. It's a good idea in principle, but will we be compensated for the fact that Trafford gets a huge amount of money to do? And they're 38% smaller than we are as an authority. That's a huge amount of difference. So we ought to be getting more money from that. And I noticed I'm on yellow. I did have to answer those questions before. I think it's I hope I can finish responding to all members and not be taking the time I needed to answer the 3 questions you can.
Members, I don't know about you, but I think we should allow all questions to be answered.
Turning to Councillor Hutchinson again, I'm not going over the 2%. Building Schools of the Future was actually to go and get schools for the 21st century for people of the borough. And I'm no apology for the work that we did to try and do that. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. So many of our schools are not as good physical buildings as they should be. They don't have all the equipment that they should have. Some do, but many don't. And so we've got to work with that, but no one more than me praises the work of Wigan schools and the fact that they continue to work in partnership with the local authority. Whatever their status, most of the schools in Wigan are working closely with the local authority because they recognise that the interests of children are not different from 9 to 4 from the rest of the day. If they come from deprived areas and those backgrounds, then that's felt in schools. I think Councillor Platt and I are going to be working on a scheme to make sure that people who get free school meals when they go to school, of course, in the holidays, don't receive that benefit. And I think we ought to look to see what we can do about that, and I think we'll work and come back to Council with a recommendation on there. Councillor George first, I thank Frankie's comments on adult services. I think we do try and do a good job despite the reductions. It's because of the work of Councillor Cunliffe and his officers who've actually changed the focus of what we do, that we can still respond in such an appropriate way to the needs of the community, and that's what we should do as a council. And in terms of Councillor Halliwell's comments, I need to admit to Council, I went to school with Gandalf. So just think about that. I got some advice. So, Madam Mayor, I think we've had a good debate tonight. I think this is a budget and a way of coping with not just this year, but the 4 years that we're going to have to cope with less money in this council through the future. And I hope members will endorse the budget.
Thank you. Members, we're now going to vote on the recommendations set out on page 18 of the agenda. Please use the electronic vote. Please use the electronic voting system, as the recording vote must be taken at this time. Could you show your work? That's acceptance of the recommendation. Thank you, members. Wigan Borough Local Housing Plan for Housing Care Reform. On page 191258, we have a report that outlines Wigan's locality plan for health and care reform across the borough. The council has requested to endorse the plan and agree that the Health and Wellbeing Board sign off the final version of this plan at its meeting on the 30th of March. Call the leader to move the recommendation.
Madam Mayor, it is moving the recommendation. I just want to remind members it's important that across Greater Manchester the health strategy is based upon a two-tier approach. It's the locality plan for each of the 10 local areas, but also one at the Greater Manchester level, which will coordinate things and deal with matters that are dealt with across the conurbation rather than in particular areas. And I want to just refer, which I failed to do in my response, Councillor Grundy referred to the transformation fund in his contribution, which I did mention. I'm not sure you fell asleep at that, but I think I did a presentation on the Greater Manchester Health Evolution at the last council meeting where I did emphasise about the transformation fund, and I keep saying to everyone who asks me, particularly some of my colleagues in health, it is what it says on the tin. It's a transformation fund, it's not some allocation because that's what you think you need. It's about making things better. And to get access to the money, we need to have a strong, robust locality plan that deals with the present and the future issues. That's in the borough, and that's why it's going to be very important for us in the future to get it right. So we are working on that, and I'll give that number.
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to contribute? Councillor Fairness.
Just a query really. I was told that tonight's meeting with the Being budget is such a priority for us all to pay attention, but there's a councillor got back from me now who all the way through the map through this has been looking at the football score at Liverpool City. That's all he's paid attention to for the whole of the meeting. I just thought it needed picking up really.
Thank you, Councillor. That is exactly why I was concerned about people using their mobile phones when they're at late. Thank you very much. Do any other members wish to contribute to the debate? Do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, well, I just say, except they're not me trying to follow Liverpool, I follow Manchester United, so it wouldn't be anything to do with me, but I agree we should concentrate on the meeting.
Can we vote on the recommendations? All those in favour of accepting the recommendation, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Item 5, which is constitutional issues, appointment to an outside body. The council has requested to appoint a trustee to the Lowland United Charity. I call on the leader to move the nomination as set out in the report on page 261 on the council agenda.
Wait to move that, Madam Mayor.
That's seconded. Thank you. There's been no further nominations submitted by the required deadline, 12 noon. All those in favour of accepting the recommendations, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, members. Questions and comments on the deliberations of Cabinet and committees? We have none. And that's the end of tonight's meeting. Thank you for your attendance. See you next time.